Hi, everyone. We're seeing people kind of drop in. We'll wait another 30 seconds, but say hi to everyone joining. I see Justin as like the top performing panelist is already saying hi on the chat. So feel free to chat with each other on the chat on the right. We'll also be opening up for questions at the end of the webinar. So feel free to jot them down. I promise to save time for that. Oh, I love it when the panelists talk to each other in the chat before the webinar starts. Justin, your Hebrew is getting better.
Yeah, it is. My
wow.
ability to use Google Translate.
Your Google Translate is better, yeah.
Yeah, Ron knew exactly. Ron's like, yep, that's way too formal. It's not colloquial.
Oh, don't you use like lingo? What's its name?
Duolingo.
Duolingo, yes. I'm on German, Spanish, and French now. So you can reply in Hebrew. And
I'm still learning English because of Enterprise Grammarly. It's been slaughtering my passive voice.
Okay, I think the attendees are getting the vibe of this webinar. So let's go ahead and start, and more people will join throughout. So hi, everyone. I'm Roni. I'm the VP Marketing at RightBound. Roni means to bring joy in Hebrew, for those who didn't know. I know some of you already did. So let's quickly say hi to our panelists, Justin, Mark, and Ron. Do you want to quickly kind of introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Justin Michael. I'm a self-acclaimed, self-described futurist. I always wanted to be a digital prophet like Shingy. I was this guy working for AOL, and he was a digital prophet dressed like Bono with like these amazing glasses, and he just professed on the future of technology. So I've written a couple books, held a lot of sales roles, and yeah, spewed a lot of hot air in the industry, and it's a lot of fun. So thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here.
You want me to go next? All right, I'll take it away then. And I'm Mark Kosoglow. I lead worldwide sales at Outreach, and I'm just really jealous of Justin's introduction sentence or two. I can say one thing to that is I read Michael McConaughey's Greenlight book, very skeptical at first. It did make me consider wanting to become a modern day philosopher.
Are you talking about, yeah, Matthew McConaughey, like with the Lincoln commercials? Like, I'm Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, great little book he wrote. It's pretty like a good one-day read.
So positive. I love it.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to pronounce your name until just now. Same happens for Ron a lot of the time.
Yeah, can you pronounce my name? I mean, let's see. We didn't ask this before. Who can pronounce my last name?
Oelgiesser.
Yeah, if you speak German, you can say it. No one can.
Did you say Oelgiesser?
Oelgiesser.
Sound right.
It's an Ö in German. So I'm the co-founder and CEO of RightBound. Roni is also from RightBound. Originally, my original profession was in software engineer. I guess I wasn't good enough at that, so I moved to sales and marketing. No, I've been doing sales and marketing for 12 years now. I love it, and co-founded RightBound about 3 years ago.
Great minds. So I'd like to start off with a general question. Everybody talks about this, but I think we can talk about it in a kind of different angle. What do you think are the biggest pain points that sales development leaders experience today compared with a few years back? So it can be like a COVID-related type of answer or a general answer. Maybe Justin, maybe we'll start with you. You're a futurist, so.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously we have the great resignation now. We have 700,000 SDRs. I think the market, based on Outreach's own fundraising announcement, Manny, I think it was 10 million. I've seen Mark Roberge talk about 50 million GTM folks, but trying to hire people is very hard right now. The demand is making the market warp. Right? In my day, it was like, I'm going to take a role with commission only and go work in the mailroom, roll up my sleeves and learn the whole sales cycle, and maybe I'll make some money. and work a few part-time jobs. This was the global financial crisis, 2007. Now it's like, just got out of community college. Where's my 6-figure salary? And so I'm not going to really typecast that generation, because I've heard a lot of amazing things about Gen Z and millennial, and I've worked with them. And there's also a whole counter clash there, where some of these new generations really want to prove themselves out and want to work hard. And, there's no real good generality. So there's that. And then there's really just so much tech going from 500 solutions to 2,000 solutions, like the Lumascape, where marketing tech hits 7,000, and CFOs are just like pounding their fist to consolidate. But the problem is some of these specialist tools are the best stuff ever built, but you can't have them as a rep because they won't pay for them. So these are two, things I see. What are your thoughts, Mark?
Yeah, I think there's 3 things that I'm noticing. One is this role, kind of a very early stage career person, typically right out of college, that is from a generation that is used to constantly advancing, constantly learning, constantly growing, has created a need for sales leaders to prioritize career pathing more than ever. And like for me, my first sales job, you know what my first promotion was? You get to keep your job the next year because you didn't miss your quota the first year. And so that kind of approach is a loser approach nowadays. And I think career pathing is something that's definitely a challenge for sales leaders of, you can't just have a couple levels, because once they get to the end of that couple levels, they want to know what the next level is, right? The second thing is that I would say SDRing now is a good 10 years old, 7 to 10 years old. There used to be a first mover advantage that if you started an SDR team, you immediately would see, progress. You'd be able to do well, be able to hire people, make them semi-successful. That's no longer the case. You have to know what you're doing, bring in an expert to do it, because everybody's doing it, and you have to do it better in a differentiated way if you really want to see a lift in results. It's not just let's hire an SDR team approach anymore. And then lastly, I think COVID has created a new emphasis on mental health that to me never existed in sales before. People just weren't aware of it. They didn't pay attention to it, and they definitely did not prioritize it. I've never talked to my boss about my mental health. Now it's a conversation that I need to have with every one of my salespeople, and our SDR leaders have it with the SDRs. And we are constantly looking at how can we meet the need for creating a really strong mental health environment inside of our sales org. So those are 3 challenges that I know that I've been facing in the last year and a half that I think we are working to try to solve. And we haven't got it perfect, but I think we're working on it.
That definitely comes across, I think, on outreaches, at least on social media. I'm feeling it, as like an innocent bystander. It seems, it's transparent how important that is for you guys. Definitely. Ron?
Yeah, I think that what really changed in the last few years is the expectations. I think that SDR leaders today face almost unfair expectations. A few years ago, I think because, by the way, of tech, because the tech made so much advancement. So a few years ago, you didn't have outreach, you didn't have so much data like you have today with Zooming and all the others. So if you were building a prospecting team that got any results outbound, people say great. Today, I think as an SDR leader, you're expected to build a machine, to build like a persistent, consistent machine that constantly deliver results. They cut you no slack, and eventually working with building blocks that are not really predictable. You're working with, SDRs, humans on your end. They're not a machine. There's ups and downs, and you're targeting humans with their own behavior and wishes, etc. You're targeting buyers. So, basically, SDR leaders are being asked to build an extremely efficient machine today. As Justin said, cutting budgets down, hire with early stage career sales professionals. So it's a very, very challenging task. And I think, again, 3-4 years ago, I don't think the expectations were that high.
I think one thing Ron said is really important is, Apple, Amazon, companies like that have created in the market almost an unreal expectation of growth that boards at normal companies, not ones that are like trying to figure out how to go to Mars and have, you know, the geniuses of our times running them. They take that kind of result and they graph it on as an expectation to a company that really is going to have a hard time meeting those same type of growth expectations. And that's filtered down through product, it's filtered down through sales to sales dev. And it's one thing that we just need to be conscious of. Like, a lot of us hope that we build the next iPhone, but to think that we're going to always perform like the next iPhone is a little ridiculous, if you ask me.
Or the next outreach, I hope.
Yeah, right.
That's it. I guess there's that T2, D3, triple twice, double 3 times. And so that's pretty crazy. Like, we've got to triple the revenue the next 2 years and then double it the next 3 years. And that creates some wild pressure on teams. And if the board targets that, and so much of that's reliant, I think, on product market fit and other types of tectonic factors that are sort of out of the control of the startups. So although I know Outreach was able to do that, so kudos to you for that. But doing it's one thing, putting that pressure and all that pressure and the impact that has on mental health.
Yeah. And
so how do you guys think?
Ron, I just wanted my board to know that I'm very happy with my growth expectations and am not in any way saying that they're too much.
If you're
okay,
here,
we'll use that snippet. We'll use that snippet for sure. Well, actually, that kind of brings me to the next question I wanted to surface. Where do BDRs or SDRs spend most of their day? Because, obviously Outreach and RightBound and a lot of other sales dev tools and sales tools are, AM to PM on their open tabs. So the fact that they spend a lot of their day on your specific tool, I guess this question is more for Mark and Ron, but Justin, feel free to kind of chime in. How does, your specific tech move the needle for them in order to help them meet their KPIs and also do it like in a sane state of mind?
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is a kind of a self-serving answer, but the place that they should spend most of their time is in a sales engagement platform where they can actually do their job. We talk about this a lot at Outreach, and sometimes you have to be good and sometimes you have to be lucky, and to be really good, you have to be both. And so, think about this for a second. SDR role starts to take off 7 years ago and become a real thing. It's being loaded with a bunch of new salespeople, new in their career, young, that lack the discipline of mature sellers. And along comes Sequences, which is basically discipline put into technology of how to reach out to a person in a programmatic way to get to a result. So that's like some luck and some skill and some good product that kind of all comes together in one place. And so if your SDRs need a programmatic way to stay disciplined, to deliver predictable results over and over again with the least amount of effort and the highest level of efficiency, they have to be living in a place that allows them to do that. And that's a sales engagement platform, or an engagement intelligence platform is what we call it now. And the other place that they should spend most of their time is really simple. In a room with their peers and their manager, learning from each other, building each other up, having a great time, and discussing the challenges of the day and how each of them would fix it, and creating this really tight tribe of people that love each other and watch each other's backs through the thick and thin. Like, if you're in Outreach and doing that, you're going to win. That's my opinion.
You didn't mention food. What food should they be having in this room?
No, hunger is motivating. No food.
Actually, yeah, the mind is working better when you're hungry. I'm gonna agree with you and say that they should spend. I mean, there's the where they spend their time and what they're spending it on. The where, from my perspective, is definitely in Outreach or their sales and engagement platform. I think that any attempt to start shifting and splitting the SDR time into multiple platform is doing the wrong thing. It's messing their day up, and they're becoming less focused, and the results are not going to be as good. What I would say is, who are they spending their time on? And even if they are in Outreach all day, I think most of them are spending their time on extremely cold leads and, you know, trying to warm them up from scratch. And that, I think, is an issue. And by the way, I would say this is even, you know, lucky SDRs that have their sales ops and marketing already created an account list for them and populated all the contacts with correct information to the CRM, and from there to outreach. That's, you know, on a good day. The less lucky SDRs are spending hours even on, you know, zooming for themselves and Sales Navigator, trying to find a needle in a haystack of who do they even load into outreach to start reaching out to, right? But I'm not going to talk even about that. But even if they, like, you have the, you know, all the contacts already and all the research is being done for you, etc. I think it's a matter of who, you know, which prospect they spend their time on, and on that part, I think that they need, you know, prioritization, and, you know, using solutions like RightBound or others. I mean, in general, to help them really prioritize even before they start, not to go after, you know, 1,000 cold accounts, but to get the 200, 300 more, you know, whether it's intent or other ways to find the account and the prospect within the accounts that are more likely to actually respond, that are more likely to actually pick up the phone and have a conversation with you and be responsive when you get them on the phone. And I think that's something that really need to change. So I don't think they need to shift where they are, but they need help in, you know, figure out who they work when they're in outreach or the sales engagement platform.
Super interesting questions. And for those of you who noticed, they're bringing up more questions from our attendees, and we're trying to kind of answer in the chat throughout, but also take into consideration when we're asking the questions. I wanted to ask you guys, you know, people talk about the future a lot, right? Justin, you're one of the specialists in terms of, you know, sales tech future. And since we are going into 2022, I'm going to hold myself from asking about 2022 and ask a general question about the future of sales development. You know, obviously, all of the stuff you mentioned has had high influence on the day-to-day of SDRs, but looking at it from like the tech perspective, I guess, Justin, maybe here you can shed some light. What do you expect? Like, you know, I can't get my mind off, you know, that image of you as a half person, half robot. Does everybody know that image?
I get that a lot. It's the Neuralink and my inability to feel emotion. But if I want to get analytical on you, well, I do think I'm a co-founder in a company called HYPCCCYCL. We do these games. And so the convergence of sales and marketing is very powerful. And those lines blurring, and tools like RightBound and Outreach are bringing those disciplines closer together. They're bringing some love to those teams so they can finally sync and see a single pane of glass to understand what the heck is going on between these false silos of marketing and sales. The big thing is, in the fourth industrial revolution, we don't have the humanitarian crisis of the meatpacking industry and conditions, but we have human beings, and 70% of what they do all day in sales is automatable. So what my thesis is, automate everything possible, because the thing you can't automate should be the majority of the time, rather than 36% of the time actually selling. It's what Mark was saying, like, these tools give you time back to be chatting and emoting and solution selling and having empathy and digging deep into problems and the therapeutic aspects of, you know, we've all seen that iceberg where what executives see as their problems are symptoms and everything's below. And great salespeople at any level, they master it, their craft, they can get deeper. So instead of sitting around hunting and pecking and clicking and list building, unless you love analysis, like freeing up the human to be human again, right?
Ron, what are your thoughts?
So there's a few things. One, there's an obvious direction toward more and more automation, right? The thing with automation is that we all need to be, you know, careful with that, because, you know, too much automation could yield to mass outreach that is going to bring you nothing but to the spam folder of your prospects, or, you know, ruining your brand and your personal brand on LinkedIn or your company's brand. So, you know, also as we do, I mean, we obviously do automation, but you need to be very careful and picky and smart in how you do that and what are the boundaries you set to that. Because again, it's a very strong tool that could have destructive power in the wrong hands. So that's one thing. The other thing that I think would have to change is how people are using machine learning and AI. There's so much, I say it a lot, there's so much guidance using AI and machine learning that reps are getting to a point that it's just too noisy. It's just like they're, the poor SDR sitting in the car and everyone is yelling at them. That's how I see that. So again, what we believe in and what I think more and more solutions would eventually see is, in order to be useful for the reps, you need to take things off their plate, take decisions on their behalf, not just trying to guide them, give them a recommendation, tell them that's the best thing, you should do this as the next step, Tuesday is the best time to send, this is the best content. Do things for them. Not everything your machine could do for them, but more and more you could. And as Justin said, leave the things, let human be human again and do things that only human can. But wherever you could, use machines to make constant decision and autonomous kind of driving, as I said, for them. Because otherwise all this beautiful technology and all this AI and all the learnings that we have are not going to be put to good use. It's just not realistic to expect human to absorb all that.
So I'm going to use kind of an analogy or metaphor to explain where I think it's going. So the first cars, when they would break down, the driver would have no idea what to do. All right, they'd look at the tires, the engine, or whatever. Eventually, cars got to the point where there was a check engine light, and it would pop on, but it wouldn't tell you anything other than the engine was messed up. Then they got computers, and the check engine light started to be able, you just sort of used to plug something in it, and it would read some codes, and you could find out exactly what was wrong with the car. And eventually it's going to get to the point where the car, and maybe we're already getting there, where it says on your little display that you're about to have a problem based on the vibration on the muffler. So you can go take the car to be fixed before the repair becomes costly and really bad. To me, that's where the SDR tech is going, is it's no longer about check engine light, which I would equate to reply rates. Let's say that your reply rates go down right now. I dare any sales leader to tell me how you would fix it other than guess. So your reply rates go down. Like, I'm going to guess that it's like the opening. I'm going to guess our call to action weeks. I'm going to guess this. And what I've learned from my friends in data science is that if you have a random set of decisions to make, 1/3 of them will help the situation. 1/3 of them will do nothing, so wasn't worth making the change. And 1/3 of them will actually make the situation worse. So if you're twice as likely to do something that is negative as you are to help, then guessing isn't the answer for how to fix things. We have to be more prescriptive. And so the future to me is creating a new generation of sales metrics that actually help people figure out what to fix so that it can be fixed and that reps can continue to be productive without having to like check under the hood and look at the spark plugs when really they're having a muffler problem on the other side of the car, but nobody knows because the check engine light came on.
Yeah, so I must say that I agree, but I would challenge one thing, and that is, okay, then you'll have all those metrics and you'll have great recommendation, and then the SDR leader would have that. The thing is that you need to respond super quickly. And the chances in most teams that they could adapt within, a matter of days is usually, only the very best team and the most advanced team can do that. So I think the challenge for the challenge for the many sales teams is, okay, I need a car that will not only tell me that something is going to break down, but will actually fix itself in a way. Not everything is, you could fix itself yourself, but I think we would see more and more technologies that are doing that, because if you wait for the end of the month for the review, it's already too late. You probably lost a month. You probably lost, that reply rate or meeting rates going down, whatever it is. It's too late for that analysis.
Interesting stuff and interesting conversation in the chat. I know it's hard for panelists to kind of look at the chat throughout, but a lot of good insights here. I'm really going to take some of these offline. Well, I've been hearing more and more that teams implement like 10 tools, 15 tools within their sales stack, not only sales development, but general sales tools, including not only sales development focus, but the whole full cycle stack. And then what happens is sometimes there's a great implementation and maybe even a good adoption, but then it's kind of downhill from there. Do you have any tips on how to actually utilize your specific tool within the stack, or how to kind of converge between different sales tools or different sales dev tools within the stack to make sure that, when a VP sales or a CRO buys a product, to make sure that they can actually get the highest ROI from it? Mark, do you want to start this one?
Yeah, sure. Listen, I think that unfortunately, a lot of people have a set it and forget it mentality with technology. All right, we set it up and now we're not going to look at it again until it becomes renewal time. And we're wondering why we're not getting the value out of the product that we should get, right? And so that's really a lot of times on the buyer and on the customer of how do you do that? So I think, listen, as I get older and older, and maybe you could say as I get more and more experienced, this is what I've learned is the jack of all trades, master of none is the absolute ultimate enemy of every single sales team I've ever met. So rather than having 2 things this year that we become masters at, we try to do 12 things, 1 a month, and we do okay at best at the 12. And the cumulative value of being okay at 12 things is way less than being a master at 2. And so I think that that's the same thing applies to sales tools. We run a really lean sales tool, sales technology shop. Why? Because my reps don't have the mental bandwidth to learn another piece of technology. And even though I think I can believe in the value prop of a lot of them, it's not about whether the technology works or not. It's whether my reps have the bandwidth to put that technology into their process and how they work in their workflow every day. And so I think to me, that's the big thing is like, you look at the MarTech sales tech stack diagrams now, and there's like 80,000 pieces of software and everybody thinks that they should solve a problem with software. I just got off a meeting with 2 of my most dynamic, intelligent leaders that I asked to help us do our annual review of our prospecting operating rhythm. And what they came back to me with was pure genius. It's Mark, the reps are doing everything right. The failure is actually at the manager level. And these are the things that we're going to do to enact in the manager level in order to be even better at prospecting. I would venture to say that 9 out of 10 sales orgs would never have the guts to blame the leadership for a failure. They would blame the reps and they would induce more change on the reps, and the reps would rebel because of additional change. They didn't come to me with the tool they needed. They didn't come to me with, whatever the reps needed to do this and this and this. And so I think that the mentality needs to be less is more. Mastery is better than generality. And I think that the better that you get with those concepts and the more discipline you can show, especially as a sales leader, of protecting your reps from that, the increased chances of success. And here's why people don't do it, Roni, is because they stink at identifying what really is impactful if they change it.
That's
and
amazing.
Because everything's important, nothing's important. It's like if you go into a training camp with 3 starting quarterbacks, guess how many starting quarterbacks you actually have? 0. So it's the same thing with these sales metrics. Oh, we got to improve these 8 metrics this year. You're going to improve 0. How about pick the 2 that are most impactful? But we don't know which ones those are. We'll be a real leader and figure it out. That's my challenge to people.
That's amazing stuff. Last time we spoke, I think I told you that I actually went to study dog training. So before I joined RightBound, I wanted to leave the tech industry. That was before Ron called me up and said he has a new idea for a new startup. But I did finish dog training school. And you know what they teach you there is that when you have a dog that misbehaves, it's always the owner's fault, right? And it's the same with parenthood. You know, I only have one kid, but you know, you have four, you probably know this a lot better than me. It's always on the parent, right? And if you come into a situation, and you know, don't quote me on comparing SDRs to children or dogs, please, but it's just the psychology of people and you know, all living creatures. We can't do, like, I'm so in agreement with what you said. We can't do 8 things at the same time. We need to choose, you know, the 2 that are most important. And the person that needs to choose that is like the manager. It's not the child or the dog. It's the parent or the owner. So I think everyone on this chat is saying, you know, yeah, accountability. That's so refreshing. Like, take a look at the comments. I think everyone is in agreement here. So
Roni,
I had to.
How old is your kid, Roni?
He's a 2nd grader. He's 7.5.
All right, let me save you a world of hurt. It's not all your fault.
So my own CEO said that, and I didn't believe him. So I'll try.
Some of it is
I'll
his
try.
own fault too.
No, it's the dad's fault.
There you go. Now you nailed it.
Why did I get divorced? Come on. Talk about accountability, right? Okay, steering back into the conversation.
I don't know what to say
forgot
now.
the question.
No, I'll say, I remember. I want to say something. I mean, so I 100% agree. Like, with not throwing more things at the SDRs, I will challenge and say one other thing, though. Like, but do you not need additional techs? I mean, technologies like, you know, do you want to add gifting? Do you want to add a better dialer? Do you want to add custom video? Do you want to add a scheduler? Do you want to add intent? And the answer is that each of those tools has ROI. Like, right? I mean, they could help you. What I see at good teams is that the good teams adopt all that when they're not throwing it on the SDR. When they have great sales ops, I know now, you know, rev ops, that is tying it all together. If a new solution is just, you know, the SDR don't feel it, you know, let's say intent, you know, if it's just magically pops into wherever cadence they are, or prioritizing the accounts, and they don't need to go to another tool and learn another tool, etc., it will work and it will improve their processes. If it's, as Mark said, you're just adding more and more things for them to handle, there's no way. But I am a believer that you need more tech, because the other thing that, you know, if you just say, okay, I'm going to be lean on technology, then your answer to improve efficiency sometimes is just, you know, or improve results is just hiring more SDRs. That's also not good. I mean, you're just growing your team more and more and more, where each of your SDRs can do better. So I just think that, again, SDRs need that support and need that good sales ops, growth manager, whatever you want to call it, that is behind the scenes, making everything work perfectly together.
Justin, I'd like to direct the next question to you, since you know a lot of sales tools and have a lot of experience with different type of technology and sales processes and go to market. Can you share a non-tech related tip, being like the most, I guess, what did you call yourself before? A neuro something? Like neuropsychologist, I can't remember. You said something super cool. From that perspective, not necessarily from the technical product perspective.
I read a lot of Dave Hoffeld, which I love his books, The Science of Selling, and he has a new one called Selling with Science. And I think of Thomas Dolby, like Blinded by Science. If you like go back to 1984, I love 80s music. I didn't really get past 1991 when Guns N' Roses was dismantled. But I do a lot of armchair neuroscience, right? You know, you send an email that's 3 paragraphs, takes 13 seconds. 1 paragraph, it's 3 seconds. So it's like, wow, I'm not a neuroscientist by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah, I mean, that's a really hard question you asked before. I would just say, here's how I would challenge the audience. What if you did this? What if you hired even more qualified people or trained them better, invested in tech stacks like everyone's been doing from our tech and marketing, and then train them on the tech stacks? And these are 4 things that are all costly. But if you invest in your people, think about the outcome. And I don't know if I want to compare it to the military because I don't want to promote war necessarily, or business as war, these combustible analogies, right? However, if you think of like a Navy SEAL, there's over $1 million in gear on that one human, and there's a team of 6 people to do a mission. So I don't think the goal is necessarily brute force in the SDR world and hiring, so many people, but it's just like improving the output and investing in each person. So I know it sounds really expensive, and when you're lean and you're running a startup, it's hard to do, but the ROI is really ridiculous if you'll do all 4 of those things. I may have totally diverted the conversation.
That's super interesting, though. Can you write the 4 in the chat so no one forgets any? I forgot one of the 4 already. By the time Mark takes the question, I'll forget the second one.
Yeah.
I'm older than I look, just like Mark.
Let's see. Invest in tech stacks.
So what are your thoughts, Mark? Any, like you spoke about, mental health before, and like not having multiple, I guess, like cross KPIs across several people, right? Ownership, accountability, any other non-tech related tips for, crashing quota and making a great team?
My number one tip on life is just enjoy people. Like, people are awesome. It doesn't matter. Life doesn't matter if it's not filled with people, and if you're not meeting and getting to know new people, like, life gets boring. And what is my motivation to train my reps? Because I enjoy people and care about them. Why do I want to give them tech stacks? Because I want people to enjoy other people, not enjoy their job more than other people, right? Like, everything to me comes back to, you get patience, you get motivation, and you get brilliance coming from the fact that, like, I enjoy the person in front of me, and I enjoy my time with them. And when you kind of get that settled in your soul, I think like a lot of special things happen.
I still can't believe we're talking to a VP sales in a sales tech company when you're saying all that. That's super fresh.
But I will say I don't enjoy Justin that much.
I get that a lot. I score very low on empathy.
But high on good luck.
I have a lot of luck. Yeah.
Yes, it all evens out.
I guess I'm super weird because I love Justin.
My nickname in the field was the machine, because what I found is I just had a higher pain threshold. So before all this automation happened, I just sit in front of, like, back on MySpace in 2004, right? I just click a button 1 million times. I just work MySpace 15 hours a day, and people would come to me and be like, at parties, and hit me over the head and literally say, like, you're a freak, get off MySpace. And then I had 200,000 followers on MySpace, and then I could put 300 people in a room anywhere. So it was like insane, the power of early social media. And I've always just been very highly manual, has been the secret. That's the David Copperfield mirror. And only now things like the tech that Outreach and RightBound are building are at a level where I can not look at it, because I'm willing to let go of it, because I trust that it won't fail, right? Like, you can hyper personalize, you can put things into it, and you can rely on it more. I was just watching some footage of autonomous truck driving when they're all in there, and it's like, you're worried though, it's driving, this big rig is driving itself. There's LiDAR everywhere going, but you're still like, is it going to hit something? Like, like, that's kind of how sales tech felt for quite some time. I think we're finally about to jump the shark.
So I would say hashtag trust issues gone, right?
Not gone yet. Will be gone.
Not gone yet. Okay.
I mean, the warning that Ron gave is like, if you just blast this stuff and you just rely on it as a magic bullet, right, it's going to be not as powerful. But if you use it very thoughtfully and humanely, it can be a high quality approach. You can scale quality, right? I'm really excited about what companies are doing with artificial intelligence and machine learning and writing and copywriting to improve the quality of things, to create checks and balances, to filter out and warn humans when they're using machines wrong. And then they're making the choice. They're going, I'm being unethical now, and they're pressing the button, versus like, I don't know, I just send 1,000 emails a day,
Well, machines can be super smart, but who built them, right? Algorithms can make amazing autonomous decisions, but somebody programmed them. So that's my opinion on who's smarter, man versus machine. Tip from you, Ron?
Yeah, after all the high level tips, I'm not sure I would add anything. I actually thought, because I had this question in advance, I actually thought about something that we tell our customers a lot. It is back down to earth of a specific tip, but I think it's really useful. I'm seeing a lot of SDR teams like locking themselves to the ideal customer profile, to the TAM that they're being given, and working only that. I think there is something that I've seen very successful SDR teams doing, and that's like spearheading the company in terms of exploring new worlds, right? I mean, they can't do it for like all their time, but if you take a small portion of your time, 10, 15% of your SDR time, and you are going to say, okay, I'm not going to go after this prescribed customer profile, I'm going to do something completely different. I think you're going to find yourself that, you'll fail in many cases, but you're also going to find some hidden gems. And you're really going to help your company, because eventually, if you're just going after the same profile over and over and over again, you'll just wait for your leadership to tell you, oops, now we've used everything that we have in our TAM. Now we need to find a new one. It's a bit too late. So instead of that, be proactive and actually bring these news and these opportunities for growth from your end, from the SDR team, to your sales leadership, to your CEO. Tell them, look what I found. Look what the opportunity. That might not be a perfect fit yet. The results are not there yet, but I see some initial signs of oil. So that's something that I've seen working, and I give a lot of our customers as a recommendation tip.
Amazing stuff. Well, I think my personal goal for this webinar, I guess, was to have like a 45-minute discussion with no slides whatsoever. And not even like a logo slide. I really wanted, people's faces to be here. And I hope, I hope that worked well for the audience. I think this is one of like the more involved audiences I've seen in terms of chat throughout. And Justin, you have 60 slides ready. Oh my, let's start the webinar with Justin's slides.
I actually used to use that.
Ready?
Whenever I got to a board meeting, I would start every board meeting, and I would say, okay, I have just 60 slides, and I'd wait, and everyone would just look really uncomfortable. I'm just psych. And that'd be like the way I clear the air.
Oh, I'm going to use that in the next board meeting. Also, it's 11:15 p.m. here. So I'm tired. I hope it didn't come across. I'm based in our Israeli site. So next time, let's do it sooner. Just kidding. I'm good. So board meeting. Justin, you have the best jokes. So thanks for being here, everyone. And feel free to contact each one of the panelists, and myself included. Check out Outreach.io, RightBound.io. Is HYPCCCYCL or something else?
It's .zip. No, it's just .com. But it's easy to spell it.
You need to be original.
Yeah. You notice how Justin changed his background as you said no logo?
Got you.
No, it was a Freudian slip.
Oh, I have a logo here.
Okay.
Look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thanks
for joining.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Nice.